Alright fuckers, what's up? So I just want to throw this random video out there just to give my quick thoughts on AEW so far. And honestly, I think I was a bit too hopeful in that last video I made on AEW. Now, a little over a week ago, a roommate of mine told me that AEW was going to have their first ever pay-per-view or show, which was going to be called Double or Nothing. I was gonna order the actual show itself, but I heard it was gonna be like $50 to order the actual pay-per-view itself, which I felt wasn't worth it, especially if it's gonna be a show mostly littered with indie trash. So I didn't watch it on that Saturday. Besides, my girlfriend and I already made plans to see John Wick 3, because unlike the Smarks, my life does not revolve around professional wrestling. So yeah. Um, Originally, I was gonna watch the entire show and do a review slash rant on it, but I felt like it wasn't worth it. The show to me was incredibly boring to watch. Like, it was basically everything I expected it to be. A show mostly littered with fucking vanilla midget indie trash and cruiserweights doing all of this acrobatic shit. There were a few things I kinda liked about it, like Jim Ross's commentary. He was alright, but you can definitely tell he didn't have the same passion as he had back in the Attitude Era days. It was pretty cool seeing Tommy Dreamer, Billy Gunn, and even kinda surprising seeing the Glacier still wrestling. And if you're a WCW fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. Bret Hart unveiling the AEW Championship was kinda cool. I kind of liked this one guy who goes by the name of MJF, who was pretty much the douchebag throughout that whole segment, insulting Bret Hart and this other guy named Adam Page or something. He was pretty good on the microphone. He definitely has personality, and he definitely separates himself from a lot of the guys on the roster. I could definitely see him being a top heel for the company. I just wish AEW could hire more people like him that actually have personality instead of all these boring vanilla midget spot monkeys. And the AEW championship looked pretty decent. I mean, it doesn't look as good as something like the Winged Eagle Championship, but it's better than most of the current belts in WWE. The Cody Rhodes and Goldust match was pretty good. It's actually nice that they're gonna be allowing blood thanks to the TV 14 rating, but it's not gonna be enough to get me to watch the company. And Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega's match wasn't bad. John Moxley making his debut in the main event was alright, but I could definitely see him fizzling out in a few shows. But yeah, I didn't care much for this show. I pretty much spent the majority of the show skipping through the matches just to get to the actual stuff that mattered, and not much happened on this show. Again, I'm watching this show and I see that it's infested with nothing but indie trash. And you're probably sick of me saying indie trash, indie trash, indie trash. Well, guess what? I'm going into AEW as like, a first time viewer. And when I don't care for 95% of the wrestlers on the roster, that's a fucking problem. Especially this fucking tranny dude named Sonny Kiss. Oh my fucking god, shit like this is what's gonna turn people off from watching AEW if they see Sonny Kiss wrestling. Because that's what people need. SJW crap. Yeah, because we haven't had enough of that shit being shoved down our throats in movies, gaming, and TV shows, but now in wrestling, oh, why not? I mean, let's be honest here, people. When has the SJW agenda ever been cool? Like, never. Ask the Star Wars and Ghostbusters fans how that went. There is this one guy who goes by the name of Jimmy Havoc, a YouTuber who I follow who goes by the name of Corey Margera talked a little bit about this guy, saying that he's done some cool hardcore shit in the indies. I mean, like, I myself don't know much about Jimmy Havoc, but for an old school fan like me who loves hardcore wrestling from the original ECW, if he does some cool shit, then I'll be down for it. Um, but aside from that, this entire roster fucking sucks monkey dicks, man. Like, who in the right mind is gonna tune in for this fucking roster? Because again, it's full of fucking indie trash and a fucking tranny. Like who's gonna watch this? Oh yeah, the fucking nerdy, autistic SJW virgin faggots on the internet. No surprise. And it's a real shame because I would have expected for the fact that Cody Rhodes and this guy named Tony Khan, who are running a major wrestling company, that they would try to appeal to a much wider audience who wants a cool wrestling show. You know, the masses, the casuals, the moderate, the older fans who stopped watching after 2001, and even new fans. But no, as so often the case that is modern wrestling, these one dimensional faggot smarks always get their way. Because it's not like these guys have everything they want in wrestling in NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and especially the main roster of WWE, who have been pushing all of their indie guys like AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and Shinsuke Nakamura all of these opportunities. Oh, no, 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 no. We need to give the Smarks more. These guys need everything because they are the best fan base on the planet. And it's a real shame because ever since 2001, when WCW went out of business, I've been hoping for another company that could be of the caliber of WCW. TNA gave us hope, and look how they turned out. Will AEW become the new WCW? Honestly, with this roster, fuck no. I don't think so, man. Like, not even close. I mean, the most I can see AEW drawing up to is about 2 million people, since most of their fan base are smarks who watch WWE. And if the biggest wrestling company in the world is drawing over 2 million people weekly, you're not going to draw more than that. WWE, as far as I'm concerned, has pretty much scared away most of their casual and old fans away for years. And all that's left are the hardcore fans who are a niche audience. And I just don't see AEW drawing in the masses. I mean, come on, who's gonna tune in to a wrestling show full of nobodies having fake fights? Because that's what I'm gonna call wrestling with no storylines. Fake fighting. I mean, seriously, like, who's gonna tune into a fucking product for the fucking Young Bucks and the rest of the other guys having spot fest matches? Certainly not the casual fans, just the 24/7 obsessed fans who live in a wrestling bubble. That's who's gonna be watching. I mean, you have Cody Rhodes, who is literally a former mid-card wrestler from WWE, who has no character and is boring as fuck. So I already know that no one's gonna tune in for him. Chris Jericho is literally the biggest star they have on the roster, and I don't even think he'll draw in that many fans. I mean, Chris Jericho is someone that I used to be a bigger fan of before he became a WWE show and started doing cheesy shit like The List. But Jericho was like never someone that was ever big as Austin and The Rock. And he's pretty much close to 50. So he already doesn't have a lot of years left in him. And it's pretty sad and pathetic because he's like the only credible star they have in that company. Because like I said, this company is littered with nothing but indie trash. Once again, the Smarks just had to get their way again. And this is where I call out the people who enjoy this crap. Look, if you enjoy this kind of wrestling, whatever. But is this all you want to see? Just a bunch of cruiserweights? This is literally my problem with wrestling today. There's no variety. Sure, you may have all of these different shows like WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, ROH, Impact, and many more. But the problem is that they're all doing the same goddamn thing, at least from what I see. One problem that I have with AEW is that there is no fucking big guys. Again, it's full of fucking cruiserweights and vanilla midgets. I mean, seriously, like, who wants to watch a fucking product full of skinny, scrawny, or beer belly fat motherfuckers? Like, this is literally all the Smarks want wrestling to be. Just fucking cruiserweights. And this is why I call you fans one-dimensional. Because all you want to see are fucking cruiserweights. Unlike people like me who want variety. And from what I hear, AEW is gonna be presenting itself as a real sport by bringing in stats and a wins and loss record, which I find to be incredibly pointless. I mean, seriously, like, why are you trying to make something feel real out of something that's fake? I mean, if you're gonna try and go the more realistic route, then why not just go full on real? Like, I'd actually take this a little more seriously if this was a real sport. Like, at the end of the day, fake fights are not gonna mean anything. I mean, seriously, who the fuck wants to watch a wrestling product full of fake fights with no storylines? Oh yeah, the smarks, duh! Like, I'm sorry, dude, but that to me is a waste of time. You'd have to be a fucking loser to take this shit seriously. Like, oh my god, fuck wrestling, man. Now, to be fair, like, I'm not sure if AEW is gonna have interesting storylines because Double or Nothing was only their first show. But since they're catering to the one dimensional niche crowd of the one dimensional smarky wrestling fans who only want good fake fights, it seems like it's gonna be more of what you saw from the fucking indies. Only this time, we're gonna treat it more like a real sport. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, fuck this company if it's gonna end up being that way. Oh, but I watch wrestling for the wrestling. No, you watch wrestling for the fake fights. I guess that most of you have forgotten that pro wrestling is not a real sport, it's an entertainment. Because when I'm watching wrestling, I better be entertained by it. If I want to watch a sport with the real fighting, I can go and watch the UFC. If two guys agree on the outcome of the match, it is not a sport. And I don't fucking care what anybody says. Oh god, I hate good wrestling matches nowadays. And that's not to say that I hate good wrestling matches, because I do love watching a good match when it serves a purpose. You know, a match that has a good story and build up behind it. But nowadays, I hate good wrestling matches because of the fans. Because that's literally all they want to see. Like, whenever I hear, oh, this guy had a good match, like, I'm like, whatever. Good matches are only good for a few pops from the audience, but it's not something that's gonna keep my interest. Because once wrestlers have their good fake fights, then what? More fake fighting? But if it was a good match that had a good build up behind it and had an interesting ending, then stuff like that will make me want to tune in more. I mean, for once, I'd like to hear wrestling fans talk about something else that doesn't revolve around match quality. Also, why is it so hard for wrestling companies these days to just embrace the fact that wrestling is fake? Like, again, Cody Rhodes is trying to make AEW feel more sports-like by trying to bring in stats and a wins and loss record. Like, how is that shit gonna work? Who in the right mind is gonna give a shit about that stuff? You know, one thing I like about Lucha Underground are its cinematics to enhance the storylines. Like, it presents itself like a TV show rather than a wannabe MMA promotion. Like, I'm not saying that every company should be like Lucha Underground, but could you stop trying to present yourself as an actual sport because everybody knows that wrestling is fake? Like, I'm just saying, dude, like, maybe more non-wrestling fans would appreciate wrestling if it knew what it was instead of trying to be something it's not. Like I said earlier, at the end of the day, if the two guys decide the outcome of the match, it is not a sport. And also, like, I don't even know why all these smarks are still bitching about WWE when WWE is catering to them more than ever before. I mean, they're featuring all of their indie guys, and we're seeing more flips and kicks in that company more than ever before, and yet they still hate it. What a bunch of spoiled brats. They should be grateful for what they're getting, because 10, 15, 20 years ago, WWE would not be doing this. What, is it because of the product is not indie enough for them? Oh gosh, this is why WWE should have never catered to these faggots. Because they don't know what they want. I mean, seriously, dude, like, what is it with you guys wanting every damn company being a fucking indie fed? Featuring all these fucking vanilla midgets and indie guys doing flips and kicks and all this acrobatic shit, man. Like, dude, fuck wrestling fans, dude. So fucking one-dimensional, man. Oh, but we're sick of the big guys. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm sick of the vanilla midgets, too. Man, God, wrestling fans are so stupid. We need some goddamn variety, man. Like, fucking Christ, man. Like, seriously, dude, like, how can the business be any good when every fucking company is the goddamn same? Like, this is why I don't watch anymore, man. You know, here we have an opportunity for competition. A wrestling company with a billionaire behind it. You know, like, this is our only chance for an alternative. Something different from WWE. And yet we get more of the same. because of these goddamn cheeseball millennial wrestling fans. Like, here we have an opportunity for a really cool and badass wrestling company, and instead we get SJW shit. Yeah, I guess Glenn Gilberti, aka Disco Inferno, was right when he said that the Smarks kidnapped wrestling. But back to AEW Double or Nothing. They really didn't do anything different that I haven't already seen before from other companies. I mean, for God's sake, it's literally a glorified indie fed with a higher budget. What you saw from AEW you can get from New Japan Pro Wrestling or Ring of Honor. But no one gives those companies the time of day. But AEW literally does the exact same thing and everybody loses their shit. And this is what people have been saying is going to beat WWE, when it's literally the exact same thing as all of those fucking indie feds. So let me get this straight. AEW's biggest objective is to take down Vince? Well, to me, that's not a viable business model. What they need to do is put out a quality product to put asses in seats. The whole beat Vince McMahon at all costs business model never works. Just ask Ted Turner how that worked. AEW is destined to fail if they are mostly made up of ex-WWE stars. Chris Jericho has made his feelings on the matter very plain. He may have a legit complaint, but he is also nowhere near the businessman Vince McMahon is. Neither are Cody Rhodes or the Young Bucks, who never ran their own wrestling company, and are competing against an already established brand that's been in the game before, and has squashed their past competition in WCW. And AEW is not WCW caliber. At least not yet, but we don't know. But I don't think AEW will be WCW level. And I don't even think if they were to compete against the WWE that this would be compared to the Monday Night Wars from the 90s. I'm pretty sure if they were to compete that this version of the Monday Night Wars will be a niche competition of only 2 million people watching, whereas back then you had over 12 million people watching wrestling during the peak of the Monday Night Wars. But who knows? Competition is good for wrestling. So at least if this was to happen, that it would at least force WWE to stop being so lazy and complacent with their shows. Then maybe more people will tune back in. But I don't know how interested I'd be since the roster mostly consists of indie guys. Like, I personally don't think AEW will be that big a deal. I think it'll be hot for about 6 months to a year and then people will start to lose interest. I mean, I just don't see how any regular fan out there would want to watch a wrestling company for a bunch of nobodies just flipping and kicking. Like, that's not to say that that style of wrestling doesn't have a place in mainstream wrestling, because, you know, WCW used to heavily feature the cruiserweights. And as a kid first watching the cruiserweights around 96 or 97, it was pretty innovative for the time because people hadn't seen that style of wrestling on TV. You know, seeing all these guys like Rey Mysterio Jr., Eddie Guerrero, Juventud Guerrera, Ultimo Dragon, Billy Kidman doing all these fancy moves was pretty cool for the time. But they were never the main reason why people watched WCW. The same goes for Super Crazy, Yoshihiro Tajiri, and Kid Cash in ECW. They were a part of the reason why people watched, but not the main one. I mean, if you ask me, the cruiserweights back in WCW were kind of filler. I mean, I've had a few friends who would tell me how the cruiserweights were like their piss break. Like, I'm just saying. But yeah, for AEW, I really don't know how this company is gonna be successful. Maybe they just want to make enough money with the hardcore fans. But at the same point in time, you're gonna be on a major network like TNT. And if they are not pulling in the ratings, then that is not good for AEW. But I fucking knew when my roommate told me that Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks would be running their own major wrestling company. I kinda knew that because of the fact that they're indie wrestlers, that they would probably book the show like an indie show. And I haven't seen any evidence that they're capable of creating interesting characters and writing good storylines, which has always been the major factors for what really draws people into wrestling. The problem I think AEW is gonna have is that it's gonna be a fan fiction. They'll be so predictable and just give the fans everything they ask for. The storylines are gonna be boring and predictable, if they even have decent storylines. None of the guys will draw any new fans. Yes, not even the all great Kenny Omega to all of these smarks will save this shit. Also, the Bucks and Cody Rhodes are ego driven. Remember how the NWO in Hall, Nash, and Hogan kind of controlled and dictated the booking of WCW? That is exactly what AEW is going to be with the Elite. This company is just gonna exist to further promote these guys. But the biggest problem with that is that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks have no speaking ability. Cody Rhodes is pretty decent on the mic, but not as a main event talent. The Elite in Cody Rhodes, the Bucks, Brandy, Page, and Omega will be the focus of every show. I wouldn't be surprised if Cody Rhodes pulled a Jeff Jarrett, where he literally creates his own wrestling company to put the world title on him multiple times, because he believes in his little brain that he's a main eventer. Give me a break, and this guy has no fucking character at all, man. And also, the fan base of AEW is another reason of what's going to keep new and casual fans from tuning in, since the hype from the fans will annoy them. Like, I think I saw a grown man hugging Becky Lynch a little too close, and she looks really uncomfortable. The Smarks have become nothing but an infestation, if not childish, unstable, overweight, emotional, mentally unstable neckbeard versions with an obsession over vanilla midgets. I mean, seriously, like, there are literally grown-ass men fighting children and blocking the kids from watching the shows. Like, seriously, this community of wrestling fans is more toxic than the NASCAR and Sonic fan base. These losers are also to blame for scaring off the female fans, too. But I guess Bruce Blitz was right when he said wrestling is ancient entertainment. I mean, let's be real here. In the entertainment world, wrestling is irrelevant nowadays. Most people out there have pretty much replaced wrestling with TV shows like Game of Thrones, movies, video games, anime, and UFC. You know, just wrestling isn't cool anymore. It's pretty much dead and there's nothing more you can do with it, like the late great Bobby Heenan said. Sometimes I'll go on my phone on YouTube and watch some segments or matches from when wrestling was good. And that's usually when I'm laying down after coming back home from work. And we can't have an Attitude Era 2.0 because the fan base have become a bunch of faggots. Saying, oh, all of that shit is gonna be offensive. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, what a bunch of little pussies. But then again, I feel like every company has done everything there was to do. You know, as much as I would be excited for a new wrestling promotion, it's too little too late, and I just don't see AEW doing anything that hasn't already been done before. But I might be wrong.